Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today, I want to talk about a subtle topic, and it has to do with gatekeepers and initiators. This is an idea that there are some people who stand at the threshold or a boundary and they stop you from coming in, moving forward. They stop your access, your admission. They sometimes have a criteria that you have to fulfill to gain admission. Sometimes there is no criteria. The fact that you're already not in their list of favorites stops you. As opposed to the initiator, who is looking for people to spread the ideas, for people to gain admission into the ideas so that people benefit and they grow and their growth can affect others. The initiator's trying to start something, spread something, start a movement, spread ideas. And the first example that I often think about when it comes to this is the story of Khwaja Khizr. Have you heard of Khwaja Khizr? It's a story my mother used to tell me. And it has to do with Musa, alayhi salam, Prophet Moses. And, he was always interested in learning. He was a man of knowledge. And he was a kind of seeker of knowledge. And, he once asked God to, teach him more. And God said, Allah said in the Quran, and we have this story in the Quran, that, I want you to take a fish and go to the river or go to the ocean, and when the fish comes alive and flops back into the ocean, you'll meet a servant of mine, and he will teach you. And so Musa does this, and he gets a fish, and he goes to the riverside, and all of a sudden the fish comes alive and flops into the water, and there's a servant there. Now, the version my mother told me was that the man that he was supposed to meet was under the water. He was sitting beneath, somehow surviving underwater. And so this man, meets Moses, and Musa says to him, I want to learn from you. And if you are willing to teach me what you've been taught, you'll find me patient. And the man says, you're not going to have patience with me. But I want you to, just follow along and don't ask any questions. And so he follows the man from place to place, from one scene to another scene. The first scene is like they come across, and I might be getting this out of order, but the first scene is they come across a fisherman who has a boat, and he makes his livelihood taking the boat across from one side to the other, and Khizr. And by the way, Khizr is never mentioned by that name in the Quran. The later tradition calls him that. And Khizr smashes the bottom of his boat. And Musa says, "What are you doing?" And Khizr says, "Remember I told you, no questions." And Musa goes along, and they come to another spot, and there's a wall there with a lot of stones that have fallen into ruin, and inside there's like this bag of gold or something, gold coins, and it's just showing somebody has hidden that bag inside the wall. And Kizzer starts rebuilding the wall, and they haven't eaten, they're hungry, and Musa says, don't you want to at least get payment for building that wall, and we can get some food? And Kizzer said, remember I told you, no questions. And the next the next thing that happens is there's a boy, and they find this very handsome boy, and living with his parents, but he's just awful to his parents, very, very awful. And the Quran tells one version of the story, and then there's other versions of the story. But long story short, he breaks the boy's nose in some versions of the story. And so this beautiful boy, he's got this broken nose now, and he just looks, misshapen, and everyone who used to admire him is no longer, interested. And Musa at this point says, "Now, hang on. I get that you broke some fisherman's boat. I get that you repaired a wall, but you just walked up to this boy and just broke his nose, just messed up his face. What's happening?" And Kizzer said, "I told you would not be patient with me, but I'm going to tell you the meaning of all of the things that I did." And he said that the soldiers were on their way to use that fisherman's boat and take it with them. They were, going off to some conflict or something. And I broke that boat so that the soldiers would pass right by, and they would see a broken boat and they say, we don't have time for this. We need to keep moving. Fisherman can repair the boat, so he now gets to keep his boat. And with the wall, this was some money that was left behind by the parents of some orphans. And by repairing the wall, I made sure that others would not get that money. But when the orphans grow up, they'll find it and they'll be able to benefit. And with the boy, he was such a tyrant to his parents that this was a kind of consequence of his actions. And, divine decree said that, this should happen. And so, and from that point on, Musa was not able to travel with Kizzer anymore because he had, asked too many questions and was not able to kind of hold his tongue and be patient and so on. So there are lots of versions of the story, that come up. And what it tells us is that there's this dynamic between gatekeepers and initiators. Musa went to Allah and said, "I want to learn something." And Allah said, "Let me send you to somebody who's going to teach you." And the man, had some rules. He said, "If you follow these rules, I will teach you. If you don't follow these rules, you can't stay with me. You can't keep traveling with me because I'm going to do a whole bunch of things that you are not going to understand, comprehend, and you won't be able to be patient with me." So there's this idea of, gatekeeping and initiating. The gatekeeper would have said, what are you doing here? You are not allowed to be here. Who told you could come here? The initiator says, "Join me for a little bit. Let's see how you do, because I'm going to teach you some stuff." And if you look at your schooling, your educational studies, and things like that, you can see that you are the benefactor of many, 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 many teachers who were your initiators, right? So when you are little and you go into school, your math teacher doesn't take one look at you and say, "You're never going to be good at math," or "You're never going to be good at art," or "You're never going to be good at writing or English or Urdu or Arabic or Spanish or whatever the language is of your country." And so there's always this kind of initiation that happens with certain people, and there's gatekeeping that happens where somebody says, "Not you." Say you're in a job situation and you've been working in your department for 3 years, doing a good job, and now you are looking for a promotion, but you have a manager that looks at you and goes, "Not you." Him, sure, but not you. That's gatekeeping, right? That's you are not good enough. You are not already in our circle, so we're not going to allow you to get in our circle. And so this circle is off limits to you. So on a very human level, on a very, everyday domestic level, this happens all the time with societies and cultures and classes and neighborhoods and, gated neighborhoods and things like this. And it has its corresponding equivalents with religion and spirituality. Islam represents a kind of democratization of spirituality, because what it says is you can have your own relationship with Allah, and other people are not allowed to tell you that you can't. So Prophet Muhammad was an initiator. Prophet Muhammad did not say you need to be like this or like that, or this, or you come from this background, or you need to have this kind of money, or your last name needs to be from this family, or you need to be of this skin color, or you need to be of this pedigree, or you need to be whatever. You're a human being. You have a connection to Allah. You can develop that connection. And the Quran is a reminder of how you're going to develop that connection. And the Prophet taught everyone, as many people that he could, to recite the Quran, right? He didn't keep it to himself. He taught everyone that he could get to recite the Quran, to remember the Quran, to memorize the Quran, to understand the Quran. Prophet Muhammad and Imam Ali and all the early companions were, just kind of learning and spreading the message of the Quran and the recitation of the Quran and the memorization of the Quran. And so it was just this push, there was this movement to say that, finally, the last prophet of Allah on earth has brought a Quran that is for everybody. And there is no gatekeeping here. There is only initiation, right? There's only initiation. You are worthy because you were created by Allah. And you don't find this in a lot of other religions. I'll tell you, the early Buddhist scholarship that we have is when the Buddha first achieved enlightenment, and his enlightenment is considered full-blown enlightenment, like he knows everything. In other circles, they say, well, he doesn't know everything. What he's saying is that he was freed from greed, anger, and delusion. But in other Buddhist circles, they say he knows everything. He did not allow women to become Buddhists. They could not become monks, right? So there's a Buddhist ideology that says only somebody on the Buddhist path who is a monk can achieve that kind of enlightenment, and only men, not women. So there was gatekeeping there, right? There was definitely initiation for men, but gatekeeping for women, right? So you have this idea that, this is not for everyone. Later Buddhist schools, and later in the years, things got revised, things changed, but not in the early days. And so you often find this, where you have, a kind of clergy, a kind of church that says the priests are allowed to have a connection with God, and they will mediate that for the people, but the people can't directly do it. The people have to go through the church. The people have to go through the priest. The people have to go, so like in medieval Europe, most people could not read. And so the Bible was, for all practical purposes, inaccessible, locked away. And only those who could read, the priests, had access to that. And so the common people were not able to read actually what it says, all the words that it's got, all the meanings and all the teachings, and all of that happened later, right? So there's always this kind of gatekeeping that happens, and certain traditions that say, you need to, follow a certain teacher, and only then will you have this. And you need to follow a certain specific path, and only then will you find the truth. But that's not really the case, right? The Creator is speaking to every one of his creatures. And it says in the Quran, all the creatures are speaking in return to him, but we don't understand their speech, right? We don't understand that communication. It doesn't mean it's not happening. That means on some level, every single atom, every single cell, every single bird, rock, tree, plant, whale, tiger, all of it, ants, all of it, bees, are speaking to Allah. And there's a kind of democratization there. There's a verse in the Quran that actually says Allah inspires the bee. And the word for inspire that's used is wahi. Wahi is the same word that is used for the mechanism of revelation, how Allah reveals scripture to the prophets. Same word, wahi. So it's very interesting that there is this idea in the Quran that all the creatures have access to the Creator. All the creatures. And even in Shia Islam, the Imam is not a middleman. He is there to light the path to your Creator. He is there to support you in connecting with the Creator. He is there to guide you in connecting with your Creator. And, so that is also, initiation and not gatekeeping. So this idea that there are gatekeepers who will say, you're not worthy. You come from a background that is not worthy. You haven't really done anything for us, so you're not really worthy. Kind of you rub my back, I'll rub your back kind of situation. So not worthy, not worthy, not worthy. Whereas the other side is you are worthy. There is a path, and here's how you get on the path. And here's how you stay on the path. And here's how you thrive on the path. And Prophet Muhammad, Imam Ali, and other people in the history of Islam, and later on in many, many other religions, the Mahayana tradition of Buddhism just opened the whole thing up. It said, no, you don't even need to be a monk. You can be a married man or married woman with children and a job and all of this and still pursue your enlightenment, and so on with all the traditions. So whenever you study a religion, look for the gatekeepers and look for the initiators. And so you want to make sure that you are on a path where you are being initiated all the time. You are being initiated all the time. Prophet Muhammad is a spiritual guide for us. Even though the physical man, the historical personality of Muhammad is no longer here, the spiritual presence and being of Prophet Muhammad is always here and always guiding us. the physical presence and the spiritual being of Imam Ali is no longer here, but in Shia theology, the light of the Imam is always here in the world to guide and initiate on that path. And even if you are not even part of Islam, there's this idea that Allah is really, ultimately, the true guide, right? We say in the Surah Al-Fatiha, Ihdinas Sirat al-Mustaqim, that we are saying that to Allah. Ihdinas Sirat al-Mustaqim, Ihdina means guide us. Guide us. So he is truly the prime guide, the transcendent, ultimate, absolute guide. So that initiation is always available and always there to keep us moving forward and keep us flowering and keep us growing and expanding and unfolding. And if you're on a path where you're being initiated, and then you talk to somebody who's like kind of stuck in their tradition, and they say, you are not worthy, then you can just smile and say, Allah has already found me worthy. Allah is guiding me. Allah is my initiator. Allah is helping me. I don't need any kind of clergy or organization or external authority or any group of people telling me that I'm worthy or not worthy. Allah has created me, and I know I am worthy because Allah is with me. And that is the kind of initiation that you want to belong to.